Okay, you're here on Record Collector and Metal Talk. It's a privilege to be here with John Bush.
Hello, everybody.
Lead singer of Armored Saint.
Yeah, lead singer slash father on, on this particular little run. I got my whole family out here, so everyone's, my daughter, my son, and my wife are here. My daughter and my wife are parading around Camden right now, having fun. And
spending your money and shopping.
Spending her money, probably.
And we'll start off by that, actually. What's that like, touring with your family?
Well, I haven't really done a lot of it yet, but, you know, I have tried to have my family come out a fair amount since we've been doing shows the last couple of years. And, you know, I want them to be here because for me, the thing I always say is time is the one thing you can't get back. Mm-hmm. And so when you're not around your kids, time goes by. Mm. And next thing you know, it's like, whoa, how long has gone by? Oh, a month of me not being in your presence. So, because there was a lot of talk about me not wanting to tour a lot, which is pretty accurate. Don't get me wrong, I love playing live. It's one of my favorite things to do in the world. I just kind of want to do it on my terms, and I want to do it where I'm not away for months on end because I feel like that's not the bargain I made when I created a family. Mm. So having them out here makes it a lot easier because they're with me. Although sometimes my son can be kind of high maintenance, and normally he comes on stage and rocks out with me for a song. I don't think it's going to happen tonight because it's just too tight up there. Yeah. But maybe he'll come out tomorrow on Bloodstock. So
that's great. And how old is your son?
He's 8.
So does he like heavy metal himself?
He loves it. You know, my kids are very into music, and my son in particular loves all kinds of bands, Black Sabbath, Scorpions, Band of Skulls, you name it. He's a big rock fan and knows a lot about music, so it's really cool.
Excellent. And let's talk about the new album. Wind Hands Down came out this year. And what's it been to you that Armored Saint are still going in 2015?
Well, I think it says a lot, actually. We are a band that's been, you know, around a long time. We started, if you want to take like our first EP, that came out in 1983. And then March of the Saint came out in 1984, which was our first full-length record. So, I mean, over 30 years of making music. Now, of course, some of that time I was out of the band and in Anthrax, and Armored Saint kind of took a, you know, at the time it seemed like it could be a permanent hiatus. Granted, we did come back and continue making records, and then eventually I left Anthrax after about 12, 13 years. But, you know, here we are still going. I know there's a lot of bands still going. I look at the list of some of the bands we're playing with on the Alcatraz Festival in Belgium in a couple days, and you know, a lot of bands still from our ilk that are still going, which is great. You know, I mean, people should play music as long as they want. I mean, the blues and jazz guys, they go to look at B.B. King. He was going almost till he was 90.
Yeah, Chuck Berry still going.
Who?
Chuck Berry.
Yeah, Chuck Berry. So I mean, you know, it was weird because at one point rock and roll, I think metal in particular, maybe people would disagree with this, but I kind of believe it, that there was a period of time when you were in an older band, it was like, especially like in the 90s, right when I kind of was in Anthrax in the beginning days, I kind of felt like if you were an older band, you didn't get quite the respect, and now I think that's not the case anymore. Yeah. And, you know, we're an older band, so that's a good thing, but yeah, we're still plugging in, and you know, we think our record is maybe one of the best of our careers. So I mean, to do that after all this time says a lot.
There seems to be like a strong loyalty in Armored Saint because the lineup has been pretty much the same, apart from Dave Pritchard, RIP, bless him. But it's been sort of pretty much the same lineup all the way through.
It is the same lineup. It's the same guys other than Dave. And Dave obviously lost his life to leukemia in 1990, so can't be here. Although I do feel like Dave's presence is kind of always hovering around us. Yeah. And there's even parts on this album that sounds like something that Dave would have written. I don't know if Joey intended to do that or just the way it worked out. So it's cool. I always feel like he's still there. Good. You know, it's beautiful. But yes, I think that is one of the great things about Armored Saint is that it's not John Bush and like who and Joey Vera and like what guys. You know, it's the same dudes. You know, for better or worse, I make the joke. So I mean, it's, you know, Gonzo and Phil and Jeff Duncan, who's, you know, been in the band since 1991 permanently, pretty much. So it's the same guys, and I like that because, you know, everybody has a stake in it. It's not like a bunch of hired guns and, you know, one original member.
Do you think that's very important? Because a lot of bands do sort of split apart when it's 2 main guys and 3 hired guns, and the music's never quite the same. The chemistry gets lost a little bit on the way.
Well, you know, look, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, I don't want to sit here and bag on other bands and what works for them and what doesn't. I'm sure it's not easy being with the same people because you do grow apart. It's like a marriage, and some people's marriages don't last. And, you know, just because you were buddies and bros at 20 doesn't mean you're buddies and bros at 50. You know, so you might hate that person. But, you know, I think the thing about Armored Saint is, like, Joey and I and Gonzo and Phil, we've known each other since we were like 8 years old. So there was a cemented friendship before the band. And then here we are, you know, still going as the band years later. So I think that is an important aspect of it. And I just think that's the cool part about it, you know. We are the same guys, so everyone has this investment and true love for Armored Saint. It's not like I said before, it's, you know, hey, you pay me enough and, you know, I'll go out and, you know, look, there's great musicians out there that can maybe play better than us, but they may not still have the passion that we have.
And when you first started, you sort of came to the world's attention through Metal Massacre 3 compilation album.
2.
Oh, 2, sorry.
2, yeah, it's all right.
And also the video, Can You Deliver? Great promotional video. But at the time, you sort of came out at the same time as Metallica, Megadeth. There's a big thrash movement. Was there any pressure on you to become a thrash band rather than a traditional metal band?
Well, you know, that's one of the things about Armored Saint is that, like, you know, again, I don't have any regrets, and I don't, you know, certainly don't have any excuses for whatever success or lack of success we had, because it just was, you know, the way it was meant to be. But one of the things about us, probably in retrospect, is that we came out of L.A., but we didn't really sound like a lot of the LA bands, you know? Right. We kind of sounded like a band from England.
Yeah.
I mean, our favorite bands were British.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no doubt about it. So, at the same time, you know, we wanted to sound like an LA band, but also wanted to sound like a British band, and felt like that was what we were all about, kind of, you know, to sound like a band that came from England, but we really were an LA band. So we, it's confusing a little bit because I think that at the end of the day, you know, some people didn't know, are you a hair metal band? Well, you guys are powerful, so you don't really feel like a hair metal band. Oh, okay, but are you you know, you rock, but you're not quite, you know, thrashing like Anthrax or Megadeth or Metallica is. So what are you? And we always kind of had this bluesy element to the band, you know, it was important to us. And we also wrote some ballads type songs, which we thought were important and came very natural to us. But they weren't sappy at the same time. So, you know, our favorite bands were like UFO, Thin Lizzy, Judas Priest, or Sabbath, you know, the Scorpions early days. I mean, we really modeled a lot of our style after that, certainly Aerosmith as well. So, you know, we kind of, the two genres got really popular, hair metal, thrash metal, and we weren't really part of that. And so sometimes I think it worked against us. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing was to just kind of have our own sound. And I think that it took a while for us to finally find our niche completely, but I think we finally have 30 years later.
It's great to hear. And you weren't too happy with the production on the debut album, March of the Saints. Was it Michael James Jackson who produced it?
Michael James Jackson, yes, from he did Lick It Up and Creatures of the Night, which he did great on those records. He was, I think, going through a divorce or something at the time and had a little drama in his life, and it might have backfired on us. And then there was also, it was between him and Michael Wagner, who we know what Michael Wagner did with Accept and obviously Master of Puppets. And so I think, you know, no disrespect to Michael James Jackson, he was a nice enough guy, but it was probably the wrong decision. And so sometimes our record, we always had this kind of raw, gritty live thing. I mean, you'll see it tonight. That's just who we are. We're like almost like this glorified garage band. And it just wasn't captured the way we really are live. So, but, you know, again, you know, I know there's bands that go out and they kind of redo, that's okay. They do like, you know, redo their records, you know, like Coverdale just recently did it with some old Purple. Leopard did it, right? You know, to me, that was the record and that was how it came out in 1984. I'm not going to try to go reproduce it now. It's like, it was what it was.
It still sounds good to my ears. And I must ask you about Can You Deliver, you know, because when that came out, I was about 15 years old myself, and I thought it was a fantastic...
I wasn't much older.
And it's a fantastic video. You're dressed up as sort of these sort of Mad Max warriors somewhere. And
We Love Road Warrior.
And where was that filmed?
That was filmed out in like Topanga Canyon, which is in the San Fernando Valley, kind of the western part of the valley. It's the Topanga Canyon. If you go over the hill, then you'd be in Malibu. So that's out there. It was kind of desolate, and it was great. I mean, I'm really proud of that video because it's it's just fun to watch. We're not one of those bands that have any kind of embarrassment in our past. It was what it was.
No,
I kind of think of it like I saw this thing about Bowie recently, and I saw him, Ziggy Stardust, and I was like, okay, I'm sure at this point he looks back at that and kind of laughs. But it's not like you're embarrassed. It was a huge part of his life, but it was then, and that's kind of thing of Armored Saint. Like certainly the image thing was something that we kind of try to bring out because we thought we had this name that we could kind of use. And then eventually it became slightly like an albatross around our neck, and it was putting on cold wet leather in Buffalo, New York in January when it's freezing, and you're putting on this. It was just a burden, So, but again, I don't have any regrets. I think it was just part of our life. It was just part of the evolution.
Well, it's more heavy metal than most bands were in that time. So.
Well, look at Hammerfall took over the look.
They did actually. They sort of brought it all back actually.
I know. Good for them.
And let's talk about the current tour. And I think you filmed a live DVD in Munich.
We did. We just filmed. Well, we filmed in DVD. We filmed the potential for DVD. We'll see how good it came out.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And that was my next question. How did it come out?
I don't know. We haven't seen anything yet. So it felt good. The crowd was great, and it was a lot of fun. It was at the Backstage Club in Munich, and it was well attended, and crowd was very enthusiastic. So. We'll see. That's probably the one thing that Armored Saint hasn't really done in all our history. We haven't really done like a proper filmed live DVD. We have a bunch of bootleg stuff that's been out and released, but we never really did a proper DVD.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're thinking about doing, and we're having fun. I think at the end of the day, once we look back over the course of a year and a half, and we're only 2 months after our record came out, so it's still very fresh. I think we'll look back and go, oh, we did a lot of shows. Probably more than we've done maybe in the history of the band, or at least on this in the last couple records.
And especially on this European leg, you're doing festivals, you're doing your own shows, you're doing support shows with Queensryche.
That's correct.
I wouldn't even say it's a support show actually. I think fans are here to see all three bands. To be perfectly honest, definitely.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, this is Death Angel's a great band, and Queensryche is does their thing extremely well. And
it's a very 80s lineup actually.
It is a very 80s lineup. So hopefully everybody will show up, and hopefully the strike won't prevent people from coming.
Oh, they'll still be here. They'll still be here. And you played Wacken the other night.
We did.
And I was there, stuck in the mud.
You were there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And how was it for yourselves?
I thought it was good. It was a little strange in the setup because they had the wrestling ring.
That's right.
So, like you had the crowd here, and then this ring was here. So then those people were like way back. It was our first show, but I thought we did pretty well. And Wacken's an amazing giant extravaganza at this point. It was obviously, I guess it hadn't rained there. They said in like 15 years, which is astonishing. But I thought we did pretty well. We had fun. And, what did you think?
Oh, well, I was enjoying the weather. No, your set was fantastic, and everybody enjoyed it. Even people were speaking to the next day. Your name was one of the names being mentioned.
Oh, well, good. That's good. The German audience has always been very kind to us, and festivals are fun.
And you nearly had a mishap in Hamburg. Your luggage went missing.
Well, yeah, and we were real fearful because we did a show. We played the Hellfest in France, the month before, and our backdrop never made it, and to this day they lost it.
Yeah.
So. It was kind of a drag because we had to convince Jeff Duncan to put some of his stage clothes in the backdrop bag, which he was reluctant to do, and he did it, and then they lost it. Yeah. So he was pissed and had to go on stage, and he looked like a skater kid, and my wife kept saying, dude, you look cool, you look cool. And he was pretty frustrated about it, but, I mean, it's like, they literally lost this big bag of our backdrop. Luckily, we were getting a new one made anyway, but I mean, it's gone. So for that to happen in Hamburg again, that it didn't make it, we were like, oh no. But luckily it did.
And how much does that affect you performance-wise when things don't run smoothly? Does it affect your performance?
It just depends on the circumstance. I mean, the backdrop thing in Hellfest was kind of lame because you know, I'm sure it was 90,000 people. We haven't done too many shows in the history of the band in France at all. So it would have been nice to have people go, who is this band? Armored Saint. You know, but then we didn't have it. So that, you know, was pretty lame. But I mean, it didn't prevent us from, you know, going out and just tearing it up. So I think you just kind of, you wing it, you know, it's rock and roll. I mean, as long as there's nothing that leads to a major problem, you know, which I'm sure I have experienced in some capacity in my life, then whatever, then you just, you know, you hit the ground running.
Excellent. And let's talk about your life out of Anthrax, out of Hamburg Saint for a minute, because you were in Anthrax for a few years.
12 years?
12 years.
Actually, almost 13, just under 13.
Yeah. And we recorded about 4 albums with them, I believe. And,
4 studio, you know, original material.
And that's
records.
during the challenging years of metal, because that's during the grunge years, in many ways.
It was in the 90s when we started, well, when I joined in 92, and the Sound of Windows came out in 93. So, yeah, you know, a lot of the metal scene was changing. Yeah. And I think for the better, you know, there was some great bands. Like, I mean, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Faith No More. Those are some of the best hard rock bands of all time, as far as I'm concerned, let alone of the 90s. So, you know, we were certainly inspired by those bands, and, you know, why not? So, but, you know, the funny thing about Anthrax is that sometimes when I join the band, obviously when I have a singer change, it's going to change the sound of the band. And
was the pressure on there for you, being the second singer?
Well, sure. I mean, you know, Anthrax had a lot of success, and I respect Joey Belladonna. He did great for Anthrax in his heyday and in the years that he made records, and they were popular. So, you know, I think I just went out and did it from my heart and just said, hey, I'm going to go out and kick ass and sing to the best of my ability. And I think we made some great records. I just think they were different records than what Anthrax did in the 80s. The funny thing is that sometimes there was this, oh, we're the same band, oh, we're the same band. And looking back, well, we kind of were a little different band. I think we were. So, but at that time, we kept trying to convince people, oh, it's the same band, it's the same band. But when you make a singer change, the sound will change a little bit. Which, you know, like that was what the intention was at the time. So, you know, it's all good. I'm really proud of the records I made in Anthrax. I think they are actually, some of them are underrated. Yeah. Certainly Sound of White Noise, well, that one was well received. But, you know, I'm proud of it. I look back on it with fond memories.
Good. I think the great thing about your time with Anthrax, a lot of the new fans prefer that era, rather than to the Joey Belladonna years.
One more time?
A lot of the new younger fans actually prefer John Bush lineup of Anthrax to the Joey Belladonna years.
Well, what I always say is this: you can like both. Yeah. You know, it's not like you have to choose one or the other. You know, I loved Ozzy and Sabbath, and then Heaven and Hell Mob Rules was amazing. You know, Brian Johnson. I prefer Bon Scott and AC/DC, but Back in Black could be the best AC/DC record of all time. So, you know, it's like you can like both. I mean, you can have a preference, but you don't have to say I either like this or I like that. And, you know, you can like both.
And I'm sure all fans of John Bush know this, but I'm sure not all Metallica fans are aware of this. But he actually asked to join Metallica way back in 1983. And what did you demo songs of them in the studio?
Well, you know, I did the most thing I did most recent was I don't know if you've seen the thing at the
30th anniversary film.
The 30th anniversary, which was really an incredible moment for me, and it was great for Armored Saint because we actually opened that show as well. And you know, I'm obviously extremely proud of the fact that they considered me as a singer. What I try to explain to people is that at that particular time, Armored Saint was getting popular. We were doing well. Certainly Metallica was as well. But I mean, to go and lead and change and get in a brand new band, for me, it just didn't make any sense because I was excited about doing what I was doing in Armored Saint. So, you know, I'm proud of the moments that I had when, you know, Metallica considered me as a singer. But you know, it's all good. You know, I wasn't meant to be in Metallica. It just wasn't my destiny. You know, you know, they made some amazing records, and you know, I'm excited about them myself. So it just wasn't me. I would have changed the whole face of heavy metal. That's way too much pressure for me, man.
I was like, going back to what I said, did you try some songs out of them, or did you just thought,
no, I never did it because, you know, like I said, at the time, I kind of felt like, you know, I like my band, and these are all my bros, and so you know, I didn't really think about doing it. So.
And of course, 30 years later, you're all still together, so obviously you made the right decision.
Well, you know, I actually say, believe it or not, sometimes to me, I think it would have been worse decision for me not to join Anthrax, because at that point everything was established at that point. Whereas Metallica, nobody had the foresight of what was going to happen with Metallica. I mean, you know, they're the biggest band in the world, certainly in heavy metal. So, and I also think that I can't imagine anybody but James there. James, and I'm not just saying this, he's like, his leap in singing is one of the best of any rock singer there was.
He's got a very distinctive voice.
I mean, he, you know, if you listen to Kill 'Em All and then you listen to like the Black Album, his progression was incredible. So, you know, I'm proud of him, and I think that, you know, it was right for him to be the front man of Metallica.
Yeah,
so.
Fantastic. And what music do you listen to these days when you're at home? Do you still listen to music yourselves?
I love music. I have to listen to music. It's part of my life. I do listen to all kinds of music. You name it. It just depends on the state of mind I'm in. You know, I think Foo Fighters are an amazing band. I love the last couple records from the band Mastodon. I think Band of Skulls is a really cool band from Britain. Not necessarily metal, but you know, just listening to some PJ Harvey, his last couple of records, who I think is incredible. Also a British artist. Love Radiohead. You know, I think Go-Go Bordello is a really cool band out of the States. You know, it just depends on the state of mind I'm in. You know, Queens of the Stone Age, I think, are incredible band. Josh Homme is like probably one of the best guitarists out there right now in hard rock. So, you know, just if I'm chilling, I might listen to some jazz. I like a lot of jazz. I've actually been listening to a lot of classical music over the last couple of years. So, but music's imperative for me.
Of course. And what was the first record you bought as a child?
I think it might have been Zeppelin 2 was the first one I actually went into a record store and purchased, I think, so long ago. And I had an older brother who was turning me on to, like, I used to write Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath on my notebook, and that was in like I was in 4th grade, so I was probably 9 years old at the time. And I remember my brother playing the first Black Sabbath song, turning all the lights off and trying to scare me, and it did. But it also, like, intrigued me. So, yeah, you know, I've been listening to music. I was listening to the Beatles when I was 5 years old and had a blanket in my mouth, and, you know, or I had the thumb in my mouth and a blanket listening to, you know, the first couple Beatles records. And so music has always been a big part of me since the beginning, and I try to pass that on down to the kids. So I would try to keep them away from a lot of the really bad pop music that's out there in the world, because there's a lot of really terrible pop music that they get exposed to because they're kids, and that's what a lot of kids are exposed to. But, you know, my kids like rock. They like cool, different type of music. And I want to listen to Katy Perry.
And have you got a big record collection at home?
I do, you know, I obviously the transition from LPs, which got most of them got damaged, to CDs, and then now everything. I still like to buy records. There's a record store in LA called Amoeba, which is like it's probably one of the few record stores remaining in LA, and you can buy records there and use records. Me and my son just went there the other day. I got the new Faith No More record, and, you know, I still like to buy CDs and put them in my car and listen to them while I drive for maybe a couple weeks, and then I'll put it in the hard drive, and then I'll put it onto my, you know, into my system. But I still like to buy CDs, and even if I just look at it one time, which is probably all it comes down to at this point, you know, I need something tangible. If I feel like if I download something, then I don't feel connected to it. That's not to say that, you know, look, that works,
the same.
that works for people. That's great. I'm sure it does for the newer generation of kids, and that's great. You know, whatever works for you, just buy records, I think, is the important thing. But for me, I still need something tangible. And again, I may look at it one time and then put it away. But I feel if I look at a cover and
you feel like you own it.
Yeah, I feel like there's, you know, I feel connected.
Yeah. And what's your favourite record of all time?
Are you gonna tell me that, man? God, you gonna ask me that?
Or you can. I'll make it easier. Your top 3.
You know, let's just say in metal or hard rock.
Oh, just generally, actually.
In generally, oh my God. Stained Class, Judas Priest. Zeppelin 4. The Bends.
Radiohead.
No, the Bends, Radiohead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bends, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought you said Motorhead. Radiohead, yes. I mean, but that's like, I mean, I could keep going.
Yeah,
but I'll just throw those 3 out for now.
That's good choices.
Thanks.
John, it's been fantastic talking to you. The album Win Hands Down is out now on Metal Blade.
Go get it. It's really cool.
Exactly.
It's worth the investment.
You heard the man. Buy the CD and everything else. all the best for the future, and I'm really looking forward to the show tonight. And
Thank you very much, man.
good luck
Appreciate
at Bloodstock tomorrow.
Thank you.
Cheers, all the best.